Hey mates, welcome back to the channel. My name's Kaitlyn and I'm an American learning to live down under here in beautiful Sydney, Australia. And today I am sharing some Aussie words that I've heard almost every single day since I moved here. So these are some really common Aussie words that if you don't know already, you are definitely going to want to pick up because you will hear these pretty often over here. So first on the list is ta, and it's super simple, like literally 2 letters, ta. It is just a way of saying thanks or thank you over here in Australia. They shorten pretty much everything, so even shortening thanks to just ta is pretty common. You're going to hear a lot of words in here that are just shortened versions of other words. So instead of saying thanks, I've heard a lot of people say ta. Another shortened word that pretty much shows up on every single Australian slang list is servo. And servo is just short for the service station, the petrol station, the gas station. So you'll hear people say that they are going over to the servo to pick something up. They are just talking about going over to pretty much what those like Plus Mart stations were over in the States, those little like shopping center areas that also sold gas. So if you hear somebody saying that they're going over to the servo, they're going over to the service station, the gas station. And the next one, and Mark has made fun of me so much for saying this word like this, so please don't laugh too hard, and that is Arvo. And Arvo is just short for afternoon. If I try to say it in the Aussie way, it just sounds like avo, which is short for avocado, which isn't something I hear every day. But I've tried saying Arvo in an Aussie-ish accent and it just comes out sounding so wrong. So if you hear somebody say Arvo, they're just saying afternoon. This is something that I hear all the time over here. I almost never hear the word afternoon. Almost everybody over here says Arvo. The next one that I hear all the time is Ranga, and that is because of my 2 little ginger cats, Ginger and Snap. This is something that I learned a long time ago, and Ranga is just short for somebody with red hair, which is short for orangutan over here. But if somebody is a Ranga, they are somebody with ginger hair, red hair, or in my case, a couple of very sweet ginger cats who are trying to get treats. The next words that I hear all the time are no worries. And this is something I would hear once in a while over in the States. But over here in Australia, instead of really saying like, you're welcome or no problem, a lot of times you hear somebody say no worries. And this is a word that I never really heard over in the States, but I hear it every single day over here in Australia, and that is mate. Mate just refers to a friend, a good friend, somebody that you know, but mate is a word that you hear all the time over here in Australia, so believe me, when you get over here, you will certainly be hearing this word a lot. Another phrase that I hear pretty much every day over here is how you going? So people don't really ask what's up, they don't ask how are you, a lot of people will just say how you going? And that's pretty much just a way of saying hi. It's not even a way of really asking what you're getting up to, not really a way of wanting to know what's going on. Sometimes instead of just saying hi, they'll just say, hey, how you going? And it's pretty much, you just say good and you move on. They're not trying to start a huge conversation. They basically just want to acknowledge you and say hi. So a word that I hear over here all the time, and it still catches me up a little bit, but I'm getting more used to it, and I'm even starting to say it myself now, is thongs. Thongs are just what we call flip-flops over in Australia, and this is something that now that it is summertime, I'm hearing all the time over here in Australia. Because it's getting so hot, it's something I'm wearing all the time over here in Australia. So while thong was not something I heard much of over in the States because it had a very different meaning to it, thongs is one of those words that I'm hearing all the time over here in Australia pretty much every day now that summer's here. So if you're enjoying this video so far, guys, please hit the like and subscribe button down below to join our little Amer-Australian family. I post on Mondays and sometimes Thursdays about the differences between American and Australian cultures and the overall process of learning to live down under. Now the next word that I hear a lot, maybe not every day, but at least once a week, like minimum, is Bogan. And part of that is just from reading the comments here on YouTube. Some people are saying like stay away from the bogans and things like that, which is hilarious. So I've heard bogan a lot. I was actually just talking to a friend of mine the other day, and she was talking about how people who walk around in like Australian flag gear are pretty much seen as bogans any day outside of Australia Day. Bogan is one of those words that I'm hearing, if not every day, at least pretty often over here in Australia. The next word, and I know I'm going to sound a little funny saying this with my American accent, but that is Barbie, which is just short for barbecue over here in Australia. I still say grill pretty often, which is what we called it a lot over in the States, which Mark still gives me a little bit of a hard time and teases me a bit for that. But one of the words I hear over here all the time is Barbie. We pretty much use it like minimum at least once a week to cook, whether it's chicken, steaks, anything like that. We turn the Barbie on at least once a week for dinner. So this is something that we use all the time, and something that I've been hearing almost every day is Barbie. Another word I hear a lot over here is Esky, and I think part of that is because it is summer. A lot of people are going camping, a lot of people are going over to the beach or something, so they will pack up an Esky for the day with a lot of food and drink. So Esky is something that I've been hearing a lot over here just about every day. In the States, we used to call these coolers. So I know, like, I think in New Zealand they're called chili bins, which I don't get that. But over in the States they were called coolers, and here in Australia they are called Eskies. Which, coming from the States and not knowing what an Esky was, it almost sounded like it'd be some kind of ice cream bar or something like that. Something you'd associate with frozen foods and frozen stuff. So I guess it does kind of make sense, but hearing Esky before I knew what it was, it just sounded something kind of like a Klondike bar.
What would you do for a Klondike bar?
So this next little phrase that I hear all the time is flat out, which is short for a phrase that I absolutely love. I think this is hilarious and kind of adorable, is flat out like a lizard drinking. It's so, like, I know it sounds so cheesy to say it's so Australian, but it is so Australian. Flat out just means that you are super busy. You are very busy. You need to keep moving. This is something that I hear my coworkers say a lot, is that they're flat out. So this is something that you're probably going to hear a lot if you're working in like an office setting or something like that, where people are running around constantly. If somebody's really busy, they are flat out. The next phrase that I hear all the time is good on ya. And that is pretty much, it's technically 3 words and it's shortened down, so it sounds like one, just good on ya. But this is something that I hear all the time over here, and it normally isn't sarcastic. It's not meant like in a mean way or anything like that. In the States, if somebody had said that, it would have been like, oh, good on you. So it would have had a little bit of a sarcastic undertone to it, whereas in Australia, it's almost like a throwaway phrase. Like if I started talking about how, oh, I started a YouTube channel, somebody's gonna be like, oh, good on you. Like, oh, good for you. But not in like a mean or sarcastic way. It's almost just acknowledging that you're doing something. Good on you is one of those phrases that I hear pretty much every day over here in Australia. So another word that I hear pretty often is pub. And pubs in the States, you don't hear the word as often. Most people call them bars. If it's really old school, I've heard some people call them taverns. But for the most part, that's very like hipster edge to go to the tavern. A lot of people just say they're going to the bar, whereas over here in Australia, they say that they're going to the pub. Pubs in Australia are pretty similar to what the bars are over in the States. They're pretty often really like small, laid-back, chill kind of places to just stop and get a drink after work, something like that. It's not going to be very hipsterish, a lot of these pubs. You will find a lot of places like that, but they're typically restaurants and not the pubs over here from what I've seen so far. But pub is one of those words that I've been hearing, probably not daily, but maybe weekly over here in Australia. The last word that I have on here that I hear all the time over here in Australia is heaps. Heaps is something that I never really heard of much over in the States, but I hear it all the time over here. Heaps of something just means that there's a lot of something. If somebody says that they have heaps of this or heaps of that, it just means that they have a lot of it on hand. So this is one of those words that I didn't really hear much over in the States, but now that I'm in Australia, I hear it just about every single day. So that is it for this video, you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like and subscribe button down below to join our little Ameri-Australian family. I post on Mondays and sometimes Thursdays about the differences between American and Australian cultures and the overall process of learning to live down under. My name is Kaitlyn, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!